Hi, welcome back to Into Deep, a podcast with me, Alyssa. In this podcast, we go a little too deep into everything feminism, from history to science to pop culture to K-pop. Who put that in the script? It was me.
Hello, I am Erika. I am actually Alyssa's friend. Yes, she has friends in real life. We actually met when we were both in year 10 trying to buy tickets for the BTS concert in Singapore.
And that's why this episode is about K-pop. You know, in the YouTube rewind.
Yes, that's what I was thinking about the entire time. K-pop!
Yeah, I don't even know. Wait, what YouTube rewind is that? Like 29?
I think it was the last one before they were like,
we can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was our Casey Frey. Wait.
Casey Neistat?
Casey Neistat impression. Anyway, yeah, we were K-pop fans, so we feel qualified to discuss beauty standards and expectations of women in the K-pop industry.
Yes, I agree.
Yes. We're going to talk about a lot of things, actually. The history of Korea, I just feel like, is important when you're talking about gender expectations for women, because it's really different from a lot of other countries. Yeah, we're going to start with talking about Korean history a bit.
I think very early on in Korean history, Confucianism became adopted as like a national philosophy in the 2nd century, where women are placed in more inferior positions to men in culture.
Their only role in life is when they're born, they're a daughter. And then when they get married, they're a wife. And then when they have kids, they are a mother. So they're only ever listening to the male counterpart in their life.
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of like 1950s housewife, but
worse.
Yeah.
Because they also didn't even leave the house. That was
not
they
allowed.
were their role was the person to stay home, segregated from society, which was just men.
So the kind of origins of gender roles in Korea came from this myth of Tangun. I don't know, is that Chinese?
It might be.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
I mean, Confucianism is also Chinese.
Yeah.
So
Yes. Where the myth basically said that men descended from heavenly beings while women are descended from animals.
Literally when I read that, I was like, okay.
And alongside the Hwarang philosophy adopted in the 10th century, where men can be masculine and feminine, whereas I guess we can see that translated today in male K-pop idols, where they can be, I guess, have more masculine concepts and feminine concepts, whereas female K-pop idols are kind of constricted to just being feminine. Even in maybe girl crush concepts, it's they can only be feminine within those constraints. Yeah, and so that kind of originated from that.
And the only thing which caused, I guess, a questioning of the Korean culture at that time was influence of foreign religions, which is weird because Christianity and Catholicism also put women below men, but it was not as bad as Korea was at the time. And it was also from Korean intellectuals who went to the US and Japan, and they saw how women weren't treated as badly as they were in Korea, and they kind of brought it back to Korea. And Korean nationalism initially was based on the Eastern School of Thought, which was invented in 1860. Nationalism pushed education for women to be a wise mother and a good wife. So even though it wanted equality for women, it was still making sure that they stayed in their gender roles and their role as a woman according to how they interact with men.
Whoa, I feel like they just kind of reduced women to a tombstone, a wise mother and a good wife.
Yep.
When we were doing research into it, a lot of, I guess, these gender roles came from a lot of outward influence, like we talked about, Confucianism and also colonization from Japan, which we're going to go into. So during the early 1900s, when South Korea was at war with Japan eventually forcibly occupied the Korean peninsula in 1910. But in the 20s, Korean people were allowed limited social activities. And Marxist feminism was introduced after the Russian Revolution, which helped push feminism in South Korea.
They had like liberal feminism influences as well, but I think Marxist feminism was more popular in South Korea at that time. And then after independence from Japan in 1945, I wrote thanks to US occupation. I mean,
Thanks,
guys. They were still being occupied by the US, so I don't really know like how good that was. But it still like spread Western culture, which was kind of a bit more equal for women at the time. But that also led to South Korean people like hating traditional Korean cultures that they had before Western influences. And then also the war with like between North and South Korea was happening at the same time.
Yeah. And the military government is what caused the re-emergence of nationalism, which instead focused on tradition and rejecting American influence, including feminism, which was labeled a Western byproduct even though it was present in the Eastern school of thought. So I feel like because South Korea was kind of, I guess, I don't know, is invaded the right term, like invaded by so many different cultures like America, Japan, and like Chinese, no, not really Chinese, Confucianism.
I mean, that was just like an influence from China, but still.
I feel like they tried to push away whatever they thought was not Korean and kind of embrace traditional ideologies even though they might not have been up to date.
Yeah, as well as like because of Korea's position, like that's the reason it was involved in so many wars and like had so many different influences. It's hard to like find an actual traditional Korean history to fall back on if it's always been influenced by something. But yeah, the reason nationalism emerged at that time after colonization was because South Korea wanted to be strong enough to maintain political independence through like keeping their cultural traditions. So that's like the historical context of gender in Korea and mainly South Korea, I guess, because we're not talking about North Korea today.
No, not today.
But what that kind of culminated into today is, and this is from an article about gender wars and populist politics in South Korea, and also another one called Anti-Gender Politics, Economic Insecurity and Right-Wing Populism. So in like the recent presidential election in South Korea, they really took advantage of young male swing voters and they tried to force them into conservatism to get more votes, essentially. But there's a lot of reasons why it was easy to push this like demographic into conservatism. The reason it's used to such a positive effect in South Korea is because of things like compulsory military service, low fertility rates, and also there was a dismantling of a Ministry of Gender Equality and Family, which means there's no like governmental service to kind of push for gender equality anymore.
Since democratization, young voters have tended to vote for more progressive candidates, where I think a new trend emerged in 2022 where younger voters dividing based on gender, when usually divides could generally be seen on regional and ideological lines.
Yeah, I feel like if people lived like rurally, they were meant to be, or they were usually more conservative, but in this election it was like really
skewed.
Really skewed, especially for like this demographic.
The Conservative People Power Party,
yes, PPP
for short, pushed misogyny and made policy promises focused on the Irena, or men in their 20s demographic, which led them to a narrow victory by only 0.73%.
Yeah, it was like the like slightest victory and like, I don't know, one of the slightest victories in like Korean presidential election history. But yeah, it was because of the swing voters.
Damn swing voters.
It was because like there was an overwhelming support by young men at 63-ish% versus only 26% of young females, which is like a crazy divide.
Yeah.
And like in the US and European countries, you've also seen like, I mean, Trump getting elected was because of the same sort of idea of utilizing gender as it's a proxy kind of to other issues. So they blame a lot of things on gender and like the rise of independent women to polarize men and women against each other.
Yeah, and so that comes to endangered masculinity, which is kind of another issue seen a lot in the US recently, where men kind of feel threatened by this.
It's like a change in gender roles and power dynamics between men and women, when like women are still clearly very like underneath men, but because of like a slight rise in power in women, they're like, oh my god, like oh, we're being taken over by women. And then they tend to be more supportive of conservative parties that push for like traditional gender roles.
Yeah, like I guess like incels and like young men that are upset turn to like blaming feminism to, I guess, oppose women or feminist ideas in political groups. Korea's context specifically, after the financial crisis in 1998, they embraced neoliberalism, shifting from a traditional collectivism which unsettled the identity of particular young men. Yep, so young people have suffered the deterioration of 5 key traditional aspects, which are dating, marriage, childbirth, social connections, and home ownership. Yeah, you hear a lot in the news about how like fertility rates in South Korea are decreasing so much.
They're like the lowest in the world right now.
And I think they didn't even have enough people, like enough first graders.
Oh, I saw this. Yeah, they had like not enough, I don't know what year it was, but like young kids.
To fill up a class, basically. And I think there were more prams bought for pets than actual kids. Like
I was gonna say, I saw that in the classes, like the older women who were illiterate were going to like pre-primary classes because there was only like 2 kids.
Oh my god!
So they were just like they were learning how to like read and write, which they never learned how to because the classes went full anyway. It's like, yeah. So I feel like neoliberalism is like the main driving force for like Korea's weird because they're at the same time collectivist, like everyone has to be the same, but they're also like everyone has to work for themselves, and it's kind of like hustle culture.
I guess when RM from BTS was kind of asked about, obviously in Western media the K-pop industry is portrayed as, I guess, very intense and like a machine, which can be like the same thing can be said about like Hollywood and everything. But I think he said that because of like the hustle culture in Korea, people are working so hard to improve themselves, and that's how things get done in Korea, just because maybe 20 years ago they were at a very different position and they've advanced so much technologically and economically, because of people working so hard every day, because of this
like neoliberalism. But also in the K-pop industry, like neoliberalism is what allows for a consumerist culture, wherein like K-pop idols are just like products, and it follows like a cyclical thing, and that's why there's like all that intense training, because they can just be replaced after they've been used pretty much. But neoliberalism, as we said, also threatens like key aspects of like gender roles, and men can't fill like traditional roles as providers and whatever, because economically like they can't have enough money to raise a family essentially, or like provide for a whole family, so women also have to work, and to them that's like a threat to their masculinity, and they blame women rather than the neoliberal economy that they're under.
Wait, you know that article I sent you about like a lot of comfort women who were basically prostitutes for Japanese military? When it was all over, like Korean men kind of hated Korean women even though they were the victims. Yeah,
they thought they were like whores pretty much, even though it wasn't their choice and it was like a horrific thing they were forced into.
Which kind of reminds me of that.
I mean, that definitely plays into it as well. And also the mandatory military service is one of the huge issues, because men feel like they're getting their youth stolen away for like 18 months.
18 months.
So they can't pursue like education in Korea for that amount of time, and they feel like it's something that's being done only to men, whereas women don't have to go through that.
Amen. I actually escaped 2 countries of mandatory military service. So I'm Korean, and if I was a guy, I would definitely have to go to the military, and I'm Singaporean as well, and I definitely would have to go to the military, but thank God I'm a woman, guys.
No, like literally. But also like it shouldn't exist at all. We were talking about just then about how the two BTS members,
Yeah,
well,
like-
all of them went to the military, but
I guess, yeah, I think Jungkook and Jimin, they were saying how it kind of like is having an effect on their confidence and how they're not really sure how they're going to perform after coming out of the military. And also G-Dragon, I remember he was kind of like harassed at the military because I guess people, like, he's basically like the king of K-pop, and people were I guess invading his privacy, and I think they took, like, this one guy took down his exact measurements and like leaked it to the media. Like, that's crazy.
that's insane, because like, what do you even do with that information?
Yeah,
like,
that's
who's
just
leaking
weird.
that? And then not even like just for individual issues, but as a whole, it like instills aggression and patriotism into their culture.
Yeah.
Because they're being forced into like the military, which is just like insane. I can't believe that still exists anywhere. But yeah, then for some reason they blame women rather than the government for enforcing military, like mandatory military service. And then also related to that, neoliberalism as well, the decline in the birth rate is, I don't know, men like blame women for not fulfilling their roles as mothers, but it's like they actually can't, because of things like youth unemployment, and you can't afford a house or childcare or education. So like, it's not really women even choosing to not having children. Like, they actually can't. They don't really have the choice because they don't have the funds or the resources to do that. Within like current feminism in Korea, there are a lot of reasons that it's kind of arisen recently. But online platforms in Korea, they're like echo chambers for pushing misogyny. And there's a lot of groups online where men just like talk about how much they hate women. And it's either like, I mean, they're like incels, but it's not even necessarily real sexual rejection that they're experiencing. It's just kind of like they're just blaming everything on women in their lives. So I feel like the push of the feminist movement peaked in 2016 when a 24-year-old woman was killed near Gangnam Station purely based on her gender, because a man had been feeling like belittled by women, so he just went to the station and like killed this woman, which started a lot of protests by, I mean, the main thing that was interesting was that it was by ordinary women, whereas beforehand a lot of the feminism was only by like women who were, and like women who were like professionals. So like uni people who worked in gender studies, they were the ones who were like pushing feminism, whereas this kind of brought it to ordinary women. And also the Me Too movement like finally came to Korea in that time. Also, another big issue that was happening at the time were like spy cams. So there was illegal filming at Hongik University, which led to one of the like biggest mass demonstrations for feminism, where 70,000 women gathered for a protest against spy cams. And they had signs that were like, "My life is not your porn," because they were just getting filmed everywhere they went. And like, this is funny because when I went to Korea, everyone was like, watch out for the spy cams. Did not get filmed illegally in Korea, but did get filmed illegally in Perth, Australia. So what was up with that? So like, back to the political side as well, we're talking about the PPP. Yep, who like just got voted in 2022. But beforehand, there was this era which was called like the age of misogyny, which is crazy because it was the introduction of like the first female president.
Yeah, and I guess even though she was like the first female president, it was obviously like a huge milestone in Korean politics, but she didn't really do much to, I guess, advance feminism or women's rights in Korea. And she was kind of used as just an appearance only thing, where it kind of just looked good for South Korea to have a female president. And then, as presidents do, she got impeached because she got involved in a corruption scandal. And
hey, at least they remove their presidents when they're doing something wrong, unlike some countries.
Yeah, I wonder who. And then I think after her, Moon Jae-in was better, but not really perfect, because he did declare himself as a feminist, which is pretty big because I guess it's a pretty taboo word in Korea. But
like, again, I think men who would have maybe voted for him started getting angry with the fact that he was introducing like Yeah, a feminist and also introducing too many gender-based policies. They were like, no, like he's preferring women, giving more rights to women in politics when like clearly that's not what was happening. But then a lot of men kind of distanced themselves from that political party. But his approval rating stayed high for women. It was just that men started hating him because of that.
Then the PPP began depicting Korean society as female-dominated and kind of framed men as victims of reverse discrimination.
Reverse discrimination
Which
is crazy.
Does that exist?
No.
And then feminism was just flat out labeled as misandry. And then he pledged to remove the entire gender equality ministry.
Yeah. He also he had this weird policy where he just kept talking about like intensifying penalties for false accusations and like allowing people to sue for defamation over sexual crimes, even though
yes, you know what's really weird about like, I don't know, crimes against women in Korea and Japan, like, you know that Junko Ferrata, I don't know that case.
Oh yeah, Junko Ferrata.
And I saw like Stephanie Sue, her podcast about like the same kind of thing happened in Korea, and like the men were barely charged for it. So I don't understand.
No, literally.
How.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that as well. Like for a lot of other cases that were happening, and men just like barely get any prison time or anything for it. And also this whole time he's saying like we need to get rid of gender equality, like people, there's misandering, we're preferring women too much. Meanwhile, still a 31% pay gap in Korea, literally one of the highest in like the developed world.
I think it's actually the highest in an OECD country.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, so because of like the extremist tendencies of like anti-feminist rhetoric in Korea, that led to the creation of the 4B movement, which did start in South Korea, but you might have seen it recently after the US election because women were so scared by the fact that Trump is the president now that they were like, well, maybe we should turn to like extreme measures to protest it.
Yeah, so introducing the 4B movement, the 4Bs stand for the Korean word B. So 비연애, which is no dating, 비섹스, which is no sex, 비혼, which is no marriage, and 비출산, which is no childbirth. Pretty genius, actually.
Honestly, yeah, I like that.
And I guess it's about the fact that it's not really possible now to get in relations with a man in any way because every heterosexual relationship upholds the patriarchy and is dangerous, especially in a really conservative society like South Korea.
Yeah, they were kind of like, it's like a protest to avoid taking part in any of these things until men improve, essentially.
Which I'm not really sure when that will happen.
No, I don't see it happening soon.
Thus the lowest fertility rate.
Yeah. I don't know, honestly, 4B movement like is not a really popular thing. It's mainly like an online small group of women.
Yeah, I don't think it's like huge.
No, it's not huge, but yeah, so it's probably not like to blame for the low fertility movement, but low fertility movement. Wait, let's bring that in. No, literally, we have some stats here. 138 women were killed by male partners last year, and more than 57,000 cases of dating violence occurred in 2021. So it's not even like extreme cases. Like it's very common that there's domestic violence and things within relationships in Korea. Also in Australia, 101 women were killed by violence last year. So it's like,
oh
yeah, did you know that?
No.
Yeah, I don't know if that's specifically like, that wasn't specifically male partners, but still,
it's pretty bad.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. So I guess we'll move on from like history and politics to talk about the beauty standards in Korea. So a lot of the information about beauty standards we found from a few different articles. One of the first ones was titled South Korea in Reconstructing Masculinity as Brand Image of the State's Economic Diplomacy, which studied the reasons why South Korea promotes like soft masculinity.
I guess they do it through K-pop and K-dramas just because it's a form of soft power for South Korea. And because the cosmetics industry is like probably one of the largest, if not the largest export from South Korea, they kind of use maybe like K-pop idols and K-dramas to promote that.
And one of the main things is that while having soft masculinity, they can promote the cosmetic industry to men as well as women, which like taps into like a huge extra market, which a lot of other countries wouldn't have for their like cosmetics industries.
So, statistic-wise, South Korea is the 12th largest economy in the world, accredited to its usage of soft power as a foreign policy tool.
So soft power is the ability to influence others in order to obtain advantages that a country wants through attraction rather than threat or sanction. I feel like I have America written here, but I feel like America's doing both right now. But when you think of America, like the entertainment industry is like one of the main things that make people think positively of America.
Yeah.
Especially like Hollywood and everything, and in terms of tourism too.
I was thinking of Japan. I feel like Japan uses soft power
Japan,
very
I
well.
think the only two above South Korea are like Japan and America. Or something like that, but Japan is definitely higher than South Korea, especially because of like anime.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have here written as well that the culture index of South Korea's soft power dropped in 2019 due to the Burning Sun incident. Do you want to explain that?
Yeah, so basically this guy, Seungri from Big Bang, which was like probably the hugest K-pop group in the mid-2000s-ish, one of their members started this huge club that was so famous that like it was like the biggest club in South Korea for a while, until it was discovered that he was pimping, like he was basically, there was like a whole operation where girls were being drugged and kind of pimped out unknowingly to like, I don't know, guys, like really
Guys who would like frequent the club.
yeah, like really rich guys as well, and like Seungri's personal friends. A lot of famous celebrities were also kind of in on it.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was like so bad that it dropped their soft power in 2019. Like, yeah, it was real bad. Also, you know what's crazy? I saw on Twitter like this whole thread when it was happening. I didn't really know what it was, but I saw it on Twitter, and it was a whole thread explaining like why Seungri was innocent. And like I read through it and I kind of believed it because I didn't know anything about it. So I was like, oh yeah, that seems right. Like maybe he was just wrong place, wrong time. No, like he was definitely like a lot more in it than like people wanted to admit.
Yeah.
The K-pop industry, I feel like we should probably explain it a bit.
I feel like, so the K-pop industry, for the longest time, there were 3 huge companies that dominated the industry. And if you weren't from one of the big 3, which was SM Entertainment, YG Entertainment, or JYP Entertainment, it was kind of hard to make a name for yourself.
Do you know what? I literally forgot that like Big Hit wasn't one of the big 3.
Yeah, which is crazy because Big Hit started from basically nothing.
Yeah, Big Hit is the company that BTS is from. So when I was reading Big 3, I just like I was like, oh yeah, like BTS's company. But yeah, they didn't even like exist.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Just because I guess in Korea, if you have like lots of money and influence, it's just like anywhere else, I guess. It's very easy to
get further in the industry easier. So a lot of these companies had
money and resources.
Yeah, and their CEOs were also like knew everyone in the industry.
Yeah.
And also K-pop boy groups were way popular than girl groups. I read a stat, I don't know if I have it in here, but like the amount of K-pop boy groups debuted versus the amount disbanded compared to female groups, like so many female groups disband like straight away after like their first song.
Yeah.
You never hear from them again. And same with gender expectations. Like we talked about this before, that it comes from like the Hwarang philosophy. K-pop boy groups, they can literally do whatever they want. Like in this article they were talking about, they were giving examples for like concepts for K-pop boy groups, and they were like superheroes, like jobs, like I don't know, like they can do anything and it's like fine. Whereas girl groups were restricted to being like really cute or like girl crush or like I don't know, they literally had like very few things that they could be.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about, I guess, like gender and beauty in South Korea as well, especially in the K-pop industry.
I think with the emergence of, especially like the really popular K-drama, like the Boys Over Flowers or something, this word that encapsulates like soft masculinity in men, the 꽃미남 men, are kind of like the
they're able to be especially appealing to women because they're both feminine and masculine. It actually just means flower men. Like that's the direct translation. The growing popularity of kominam in popular culture is kind of like trying to break away from traditional masculinity, I guess, but like I don't know, it's still keeping gender roles. It's just that they're allowed to like look more feminine. So young men who were able to like be more feminine and not express hard masculinity were kind of more popular among women.
Yeah, and this look kind of emerges with, I guess, the popularity with K-pop and K-dramas, the flower boy look kind of, because of Korea's soft power, it does not carry the same connotations of, I guess, gay sexuality that it does in the West. So a lot of the time, I don't know, like, as a K-pop fan, for example, if I'm showing like a video to like a friend, a lot of the time they just think that they're all gay.
They either think they're like, they look like girls or they're all gay.
Yeah.
But that's just like a Western expectation of how men aren't allowed to be feminine.
Yeah, which as a result, I think because of the different aesthetic standards, Korean men in their 20s and 30s are more predisposed to getting like cosmetic surgery than Western men, especially because good looks are so equated with success. Like, for example, if you apply for a job in Korea, it's mandatory to have a photo of yourself included with your resume.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
They're like, no, he's too ugly.
Yeah, because just like, I feel like because it's so competitive in Korea, you need something, like everyone is so capable that they need something to kind of separate that.
And yeah, as we said, like the feminization through cosmetic surgery doesn't carry the same risks to sexual identity in the West. And that's also why there's like, cosmetic surgery is so popular there, because it's not just women getting it, even though women are getting it at a higher rate than like any other country as well, but men also get it, and it's like normal and
kind
like,
of
expected, like recommended for men to get cosmetic surgery. Another important part about the K-pop industry is that it's very like, when you have female girl groups, they cater to the male gaze, and when you have male boy groups, male boy groups, I think they're all male, they're like, they cater to the female gaze. They're like there to be like ideal like boyfriends or girlfriends, I guess.
Do we discuss this, how like the fan service thing?
True.
Like how, I don't know, like you might see a video of 2 K-pop male idols and they'll be like, you'll think, oh my god, what a cute gay couple, but
they're literally like the straightest men in just a boy group.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with obviously fan service for young female, or just, I don't know, females in general.
Yeah.
And I feel like obviously it's a cultural thing as well. I think a lot of things that men in Western
countries like aren't allowed to do because it would look like either they were gay or they were like too feminine.
Yeah.
It can be fine in Korea, and they can still have, like, their sexual identity is still fine.
Yeah.
And so is their masculinity isn't threatened.
Yeah, which is really like polarizing, just because like gay marriage isn't like legal in Korea.
No, and it's such a conservative country as well, but like pretending to kiss your male bandmate is fine. We were going to talk about like gender discrimination for female male K-pop idols. Female idols are like so infantilized, and the amount of like schoolgirl concepts. I mean, I guess it's like, it is different in Korea to do a schoolgirl concept than it would be in other countries.
Yeah.
But it's still weird. Like, they're still getting de-aged to where they're like more attractive to their male audience, because their male audience wants to see them as like a potential girlfriend.
And a lot of the time, like, companies will prioritize younger idols to debut to maximize profits. Like, a lot of the time, like, when companies are holding auditions, they'll have an age limit, and if you're too, like, not even too old, like maybe over 18 or over 20.
I've seen some now and I'm like, wow, I couldn't even, what, I'm not allowed. Let me try out, what the hell.
Which I guess girl groups become kind of like formulaic because they have a supposed expiration date and have more shallow concepts.
Yeah, I think it's improving. Like, they can have more concepts than they used to be able to. But male idols, when I'm writing this, I'm thinking about Super Junior.
Oh.
It's like, a lot of the male idol groups can still be active even though they're all like 40.
Yeah.
Which is, that will like never happen to a female group. Or if it does, they're way less popular because they're not attractive to male fans anymore. Yeah, and female groups as well, like, only get to talk about, like, crushes. And, like, they're, like, I don't know, like, cutesy versions of love.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, BTS were allowed to talk about, like,
so many things.
intergenerational struggles in Korean society in their songs, which was, like, never accepted for female groups.
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to the Hwarang ideology, where men can be like whatever they want, either more masculine or feminine, whereas obviously for women there's more strict expectations, like for example, like if they're not the right weight or height or not pretty enough, they just won't be hired.
Even in, like, normal workforce, not even in the K-pop industry. Yeah, there was an interview for a sociologist, Dr. Helen Lee, in 2012, where a woman revealed that her male co-workers admitted that they definitely asked for pictures on resumes so they could only hire hot girls at companies like Samsung. And especially when there's such an unhealthy body image in Korea as well, that's, like, they literally have to be, like, anorexic. And that's not even, like, hyperbole, like they're actually like anorexic, and that's the ideal weight to be.
I'm pretty like whatever your height is, they kind of like if you're under 50 kilograms, it's like ideal.
Yeah, which is like unhealthy. Oh yeah, I also wrote here about dating rumors. Like Suran and Suga from BTS had a song together, and like there was a huge dating scandal where she had to apologize like multiple times because people just kept bringing it up. Whereas no one forced the BTS member to say anything. Like, they were literally, like, cyberbullying her when it was, like, they were never dating. There was nothing going on. But, yeah, dating rumors as well are, like, huge in K-pop. I guess, like, moving on from K-pop-specific issues to, like, society as a whole and, like, the sexualization of women. You said before how it was, like, men only like sexualizing women in Korea when it's, like, not consensual.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was, we already talked about the spy cam epidemic in Korea. After that, it moved on to, like, the deepfake crisis.
Thank you, AI.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I think even before AI, they had deepfakes.
That's true.
They've been going on for a while.
Yeah, so they've been an issue in Korea for quite a while, but they only usually affected, like, celebrities, particularly female K-pop idols.
Like, that's still just as bad, but for K-pop idols, I feel like they were used as, like, pornographic material, not blackmail material, because if people saw that of a K-pop idol, they know that it's not real. Yeah. Like, because, like, yeah. But recently they've been used to make videos of, like, people that they know in real life.
Yeah.
And they'll get all this information about them and then blackmail them to, like, keep sending videos of themselves or pictures and stuff, so they can't, like, get out of it pretty much.
Which kind of brings us to the Nth Room case. Similarly, this case was uncovered by this student journalist Park Ji-hyun in 2019. So there were at least 74 victims, which went as young as, I think, middle schoolers.
Yeah.
Where they were forced to upload explicit and sometimes violent videos of themselves into chat rooms on Telegram. And I'm not too sure, but I think that was part of the reason why the Telegram CEO got, like, arrested, was it?
He was, but I think he was arrested in, like, France.
Oh.
I don't know. I think it was also because of, like, explicit material and child pornography, pretty much, child sexual exploitation. But Telegram has been used in Korea for, like, a lot of things to do with that. The deepfake thing as well, they were, like, police had been investigating a deepfake porn rings at 2 major universities, but there was a journalist who was looking into this, Ko Nadin, and she was convinced it went deeper than that. And she started searching and, like, going undercover in these Telegram chat rooms. And she found that, like, there were groups also targeting high schools and middle schools. And it was usually people who, like, the perpetrators knew. So it would be, like, their people at their school, even middle school, like, their classmates who were girls, or, like, their sister, or, like, their mother.
That's gross.
Yeah, it was actually disgusting. And, like, how bad does, like, the internet have to be for, like, a middle schooler to be sending pictures into a Telegram chat room to make deepfakes of? It was more than 500 schools and unis which had these, like, porn rings for Telegram. And a lot of the girls involved were under 16. And when it came to, like, the Nth Room, how they were uncovering, like, all this information about women and then using it to, I guess, force them to upload more videos and things of themselves, that can be referred to as modern slavery. So from an article I found about the Nth Room case and modern slavery in the digital space, modern slavery is a broad term used to describe situations in which somebody uses coercion, deception, or threats to exploit victims and take away their freedom. So it includes anything from like human trafficking, child exploitation, and forced labor. According to the UN, 71% of global slaves are female, but when looking specifically at forced sexual exploitation, women or girls comprise the overwhelming number of victims. So that's another main reason why feminism has been like popping up recently a lot in Korea after that was exposed. Even for like girls in K-pop though, like being a feminist is still so taboo.
Yeah. So, for example, one of the cases was with Hwasa. She's from like a girl group, but she's a soloist now, and she's kind of known for being more on the provocative side, which I guess is not very favored by Korean society. So she's kind of doing a lot for, I guess,
like pushing women to be able to do whatever they want in the entertainment industry.
So after she performed at a uni campus festival, she did kind of like a suggestive dance move where I think she kind of maybe like grabbed her crotch or something, which all K-pop
literally
boys have probably done.
Yeah.
And she got reported to the police. So the police, as they do, opened an investigation into her for indecency, and I think they literally interrogated her for like hours.
Yeah. I mean, all the charges were dropped, but like still, she literally did, like, I watched the video and it was like, she didn't even touch herself, I don't think. Like, she just like did a motion.
Yeah.
How many boy groups do that and like every single comeback and they're not getting reported to the police about it?
Like, if you take a look at Yeonjun's Gum.
Yeah, I don't even know what that song is called.
Oh my god. Oh, anyways.
It's real bad. Like, also a bad song. Like,
yeah, he's just kind of gyrating in front of the camera for the entire chorus. But you know what?
Hwasa also like always got comments about this. I would see them all the time, like back in the day, about like she doesn't look like a traditional idol. Like she doesn't have pale skin and she's not like super skinny. And people regarded her as a threat to like her girl group's success because of that. Yeah, you're also talking about the double standard. Like, men are okay with sexualizing women as long as it's like without their consent.
Yeah, I think it's really popular for really perverted like fan cams where men will just like focus on like taking maybe like underskirt photos of a female idol, or like
if they're leaning over in front of the camera or something. Yeah, they like zoom in on it. But Hwasa doing that voluntarily just gets reported to the police. Like, what the hell? Yeah, so they like they're okay with making like deep fakes and stuff all the time, but they don't want them to choose for themselves. And I feel like I can equate that to like the submissive sort of nature. Like, there was a TikTok by this creator called Cleo's World, and she was talking about how submissiveness is a Madonna whore complex, because it has a double meaning of also being like traditional religious, like dressing like decently and not being sexual, but submissiveness is also like a sexual kink. So they expect them to be simultaneously like, I don't know, like covered up and like not sexual at all, but then at the same time they want them to be like submissive in a sexual way. It's like, how do you want them to be both? Like, that doesn't make sense.
Another case involves a member from Red Velvet called Irene, and she shared at a fan gathering that she just finished reading Kim Ji-young, Born in 1982 by author Cho Nam-ju, and in South Korea, the book is considered a very iconic piece of contemporary feminist literature. I read some of the book before there was a leak in my roof and it kind of destroyed the book.
Wait, I've read the whole thing.
Yeah, how did you find it? Because I didn't think it, like,
it wasn't crazy at all.
Yeah, like, from the parts that I read, it wasn't very radical or anything. I just thought it
was just like an accurate depiction of women's lives. It was kind of like, she still had children and everything, but because she had to quit her job, and there were also a reference in that about how she was like sitting at a cafe like drinking coffee or something, and these people came up to her and called her this word which means like a woman who just lives off her husband's salary. So at the same time that like men want to be like traditional providers, they're still like, oh, this woman is just like not working, she's just living off her husband's salary. And then eventually she developed a mental condition because she like never wanted children in the first place, but like got convinced into it by a family, and that was pretty much it. Like, she Like, it was just a story about her experience with that. And, like, yeah, people were so angry about it. They burnt her merch and destroyed pictures of her.
Oh.
Yeah.
From the same girl group, another member, Joy, wore a shirt that said, "We should all be feminists." And once again, merch and pictures of her were burnt.
Like, it's not that serious.
Yeah.
It's also crazy because, like, another double standard, even the president at the time, Moon Jae-in, he was, like, gifted Kim Ji-young, born in 1982, and, like, I'm pretty sure he read the book. And, like, men weren't burning pictures of Moon Jae-in, like...
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's, like, a whole website of celebrities that have openly voiced maybe that they were feminist, and they're, like, blacklisted by, like, men's rights movements.
No, literally, men's right movement as well. Like, what do you mean by that? You already have all the rights. Why do you need a movement?
Yeah.
And also, yeah, they literally treat feminists in Korea like they're, like, terrorists. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like I wanted this to be, like, a fun episode. It's just so depressing.
Yeah.
Like, and we were like, what's a good takeaway for this? Like, man, I don't even know. They're kind of, like, in a really bad position right now.
Yeah. Really great. Their last president got impeached.
Yeah, and they still don't have a new one. So
yeah, so hopefully there's some hope there. But yeah, I feel like it's just important to know the historical context of, like, what happened, because I feel like even though Korea has advanced so much technologically and economically, they still have quite a long way to go in terms of, I guess, like
rights for marginalized groups.
Yeah.
And, like, socially.
Yeah. Which I think is being talked more about by maybe younger K-pop idols.
Yeah, we were saying, like, I think a lot of the K-pop idols are actually really pro things like feminism.
Within the bounds that they're allowed to be in, I guess.
Some of them do talk about it openly, but it's pretty rare. And I feel like you risk getting blacklisted when you talk about things like that. Yeah, I'm going to say that is there hope for the younger generation, but a lot of them are being forced into conservatism. But a lot of the women are very, like, forward-thinking. It's just the men are kind of awful.
I think, like, especially with the Nth Room case, since there were a lot of cases of,
like, younger
girls being like pictured for these chat rooms, they were more focused on bringing the girls in for a talk just to be careful around their male peers, rather than giving the boys a talk on how they just shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah. Even, like, a lot of women started deleting all of their photos on social media because that's what was being used as well. Like, even photos where they were, like, fully clothed.
Yeah.
So a lot of women were, like, deleting all their photos and, like, hoping that it hadn't happened to them. But yeah, it's not, like, their fault. Like, they should be putting a lot more effort into educating younger men, but it's really hard when they're, like, already have, like, such a bad view of women when they're, like, 12. Like, I don't even know how you try and teach that out of them when it's come so early.
Yeah. But you know what? There's always hope. Hopefully the next president is better. We not sure, but...
And hopefully BTS come back next year.
Yeah.
This year?
This year, yeah.
Yes. Let's hope the military experience wasn't too traumatic. Although I think it probably was. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Like, it's kind of a random episode, but yeah, it's interesting to talk about other countries and their expectations of women and where that comes from as well, because it always has such a long history into why it is the way it is today. Erika, on an ending note, what's your favorite K-pop feminist anthem?
I'd have to say Kiss Later by Yeojin from Luna. R.I.P. Luna. You'll always be
in our hearts.
Yeah. But basically it's about, I think it was sang by Yeojin, who was maybe like 13 or 14 at the time.
Yeah.
The music video is really funny. It's kind of playing into the whole, like, Prince Charming with the frog in it. But kind of saying, like, it's actually a song about consent, about like kissing later, I guess.
Yeah, and it was like age appropriate for her as well.
Yeah.
Instead of like making an idol do something that's like not age appropriate. My feminist anthem is also a Luna song. It's Butterfly. The music video is really good. It shows women all around the world in a lot of different scenarios. So those are our recommendations for K-pop feminist anthems. Thank you for listening to this episode, and I'll see you next week.
Not me though. Bye.
Yeah, you won't see Erika next week.
No.
Bye.
Bye.